I'm going to record the video of an example that's pretty close to what your lab structures are going to look like. Okay, so I'm reading from a text file. Now my text file has 10 records, and each record has 3 fields. 2 of them are parent strings. The number, I can read it as a string, and then if I need it as a number, an integer, I can turn it into that. So let's look at the code. Okay, so I have to import all of the libraries that I'm going to use. I could just import the I/O library and everything in it. Because I'm using a very simple text read, I also did the file. And then the scanner, because I'm going to use the scanner as a file input object. Alright, now just because it's a text read or a file read, I have to use the try catch and the throws I/O exception. Now, for right now, just know that you have to use those. It's lockstep. I will go over those later in the semester. Okay, so I have my example, my class. I have my main that throws the I/O exception. I create my 2dim string array. Then I create an index for the row, an index for the column. Whole num is going to be where I parse my string into a data type that's an integer. It's just like changing the data type of it. Just like you can do a cast on numbers, well, strings we have to do parses. So I have to wrap it in a try catch. Again, this is lockstep. We'll go over what those actually mean later, but you have to have that in order to open a file object and tell it the name of your text file. The scanner is just an input object. I can use it for the console, I can use it for a file. It just depends on what you pass to it. So I create my file, give it an FIO object name, and I feed that into my scanner so that I can read from it. Now, this one I'm making very easy along the fact that you can hard code the size, and I can count on that to read what I need. Okay, so we want the row to read all the rows. I can do it until the series dot length. Within each row or record, it's going to loop 3 times, because that is how many fields are in each record or columns in each row. So I tell it to go after the row I'm on. The length will get it out. So from there, I'm simply filling my 2-dimensional array. Fine. Now we come to the next part. Now again, I'm using the next on my file object because just like you can do a next in an input from a keyboard to get everything until a space is hit, this will traverse through each row and pull out everything with spaces separated and load it. If it was a integer array, I would do a next int. I wish I could get that. Okay. I would do a next int. Now I'm going to go down to where I'm printing out. Now I made this a little, it's a little more difficult actually than what you have to do. But again, I traverse through the entire 2-dimensional array. And from here, I'm just printing out the data. Yours will be a little bit different because you have another area that you've got to look at. But again, I just made it so if the column that holds the TV station is a certain number, then you have to pay extra. Okay, so if my column is 2, which means I'm in the TV element of my array, here's what may help you. I'm taking that number that is in a string array and I parse it to put it in a hold area. This is an integer, so now I've taken that string, turned it into an integer. I can treat it as an integer from that part forward. So I can say if my whole num is 20, then I want to print something extra. Now I got to make sure and zero out that whole num so it's not 20 all the time. Okay, I don't want it to be 20 all the time. And again, you have to be able to make sure and have everything to where it lines up. That's one thing I need to do. It would work without it, but that makes that only work when the column is 2 versus all the time. Okay, so I will post this inside the lecture solutions just so you have something to look at. I hope this helps you. And again, this is just reading from a text file. We'll do others later on in the semester. Text is the easiest thing to read from. This part is not because it's just because of the string we're doing. Actually reading in the file and loading the array is not that difficult. Okay, I'm going to post this whenever it goes, and I hope that it helps you. If you need help, just let me know.